Hey everybody, Alex here for Nerdy Inc., coming at you with another episode of Our Favorite Frontier, the only Star Trek podcast on the internet that is hosted by me and Nick. Hey Nick.
What's up, Alex? How are we doing today?
We're doing pretty good. My cat's meowing at me, but that's besides the point, isn't it? Because we're not here to talk about my cat as much as I would love to have a podcast about my cat.
No.
It would be called Fast Times
No.
at...
They wouldn't be called anything because we're not doing it.
That's true. Instead, we're going to be talking about Star Trek: The Next Generation, specifically the episode called Time Squared.
Captain's log, stardate 42679.2. While en route to the Endicott system, we have encountered a Federation shuttlecraft which seems to have appeared out of nowhere. There are no indications of where it came from or how it got out here.
Nick, what did you think of Time Squared?
I thought it was boring and uninteresting.
I largely agree. I found the episode to hinge upon some very, very pivotal science things that were not explained well and led there to be a sort of dull build up to a climax that seemed unnatural.
And barely a climax, in my opinion.
Yes, it was kind of dull.
Yeah, I was excited for this. This is a time travel episode. When we do the episode breakdown, you'll see that. But I was excited for a time travel episode, and I liked... It was like kind of Twilight Zone-y, like you know how I like my Star Trek to be in that kind of realm. So I was like, oh shit, this episode's gonna be fucking baller. And it was not baller at all.
So what did happen in this episode? Let's break it down.
So they find a shuttle pod drifting through space with no power, and when they get it back on the ship, they realize it's the exact same shuttle pod they already have. They open it up to find unconscious Picard. And they're like, oh my god, there's two Picards. So everyone kind of gets called away from the bridge to kind of figure out this dilemma. Everyone is given a different task to figure out what's going on. Deanna Troy's useful because she's able to kind of sense what this Picard is going through when he's unconscious. So they're kind of getting a up-to-date kind of feel of what's going on with this guy. They discover that this pod is coming from 6 hours in the future. And that in the log of the ship, the Enterprise is destroyed and Picard leaves. And they're like, why would this happen? And then, as the episode goes on, the Picard that is from the future starts waking up. And it gets to the point where they end up going towards this vortex, which is going to destroy the Enterprise. And then the two Picards are trying to figure out the resolve. They're both getting electrocuted. And they're like, oh, if I leave the ship, then it'll be fine. And then Picard realizes, hey, that's the mistake you made. And he's like, well, there's no other way except for one possibly impossible way. He's like, why don't we just try that instead? And he's like, fuck you, no. And then he just shoots them, and then they go fast. And then that's the end of the episode. When you break it down like that, it was really not good.
Yeah, this is, I would agree for the most part. I will say this episode did start in a way that I think sets a nice precedent. And when I say this episode starts, I'm saying really, really, really how it starts.
You mean when Riker's cooking?
Yes. And here's why I like that.
Okay, because I personally didn't see any resemblance to the episode within that. But if you can explain something different and I missed something, here you are.
There's no deeper meaning to it. There's no parallels to the episode. There's not really anything big going on there. But I thought that this was... I like how the episode starts with characters already doing something about their daily lives to show... as a way to show that these people are not all work and no play. We've seen some of these episodes start kind of just dully where it's like, we are en route to this location. Here we go. And they walk out, and they're all sitting there doing work, and they're always working. And as, admirable and glorifying of science as that is, I like being able to say, well, does Riker do nothing but work? No, today he's making eggs for his friends. And it's like, that's nice. And so it's a nice little way to show life aboard the Enterprise in a way that is sort of non-intrusive to the episode. It's not like the episode kept cutting away from the main Picard storyline to show us something unnecessary repeatedly throughout the plot. It was just let's start off.
There's no A and B plot.
Yeah, it's just here's at the beginning a quick thing to show. Here's what these guys do in their off time, and now it's time to get to work.
Honestly, I want to talk more about this scene in particular than I do the rest of the episode. Do you mind if we dive into this section of the episode?
Not at all, because I
think this podcast is more going to be about the first 5 minutes of this episode than the rest of the episode. So for you listening, if you stop after 5 minutes, you're going to pretty much get what you need today. Let's talk about Pulaski.
Okay.
And she compliments Riker's cooking skills. And he, it's kind of like, oh yeah, I had to learn how to cook, because it was just me and my dad, and he wouldn't cook. And all he did was make scrambled eggs.
He didn't even make them well. They were sticking to the fucking pan.
And they looked watery. And I don't like eggs. I'm a weird person. I don't like them. But I know what a good egg looks like. And that's not it. What are they used to that they were so impressed by it? And then they got a mixed reaction when they were eating the eggs.
Well, the other thing that stuck out at me is, now granted, maybe it's just my poor memory, and I'll go back and check in post, but I'm pretty sure he said at the top of the episode he's making an omelet, and they ended up just making scrambled eggs.
Yeah, so he couldn't even complete that.
So he couldn't do the thing that he said he was going to do.
Yeah.
And why would you serve someone a food that you have no idea what it is? He's like, oh, here's an egg I picked up on a space station. Clearly he's never had it before.
Yeah. You can't just serve random eggs. Like if you made me quail egg, if people do quail egg, the smaller egg, I'd be like, what the fuck's going on? This is weird. And if you didn't explain what it was, I wouldn't eat your meal.
But I would also never have you come over. I would never invite you over with something that I don't know what I'm doing. I would test a quail egg first to make sure, okay, this actually to taste the same as a normal egg, so I can serve it, with bacon and an English muffin the same way I would a normal egg.
Yeah.
I would never just guess that, this food's probably fine.
Yeah, so have at it. Now, there's a bigger issue, and I really want to talk about this.
Okay.
Okay. So, obviously, Data needs to experience culture.
Yes.
And they give him some of the egg. Fine. I have never seen Data eat up to this point. That I don't remember. I've seen him smoke a pipe, but I've never seen him eat. What function would that serve him? Does he have taste buds? Can he experience that? And where does it go?
So, I can answer all of these questions for the most part.
You can. These are questions that you know the answers to.
For the most part, yes.
I'm listening.
Data, I don't believe we've seen Data eat anything up to this point. You might be right. I'm trying to rack my brain, but it's whatever. I know he does eat. Data eats more because his programmer built it for him as a social construct rather than some form of power or nutrition or anything. So it's almost the same as if, well, why does Data have eyebrows? He doesn't need eyebrows. True, but his doctor soon gave him those to make him more human. Same thing with eating. Data doesn't need to eat, but he understands. So he's trying to make something as close to human as humanly possible. So he built in these functions that can make him assimilate and fit in social settings, even though they serve no utilitarian purpose.
Now, what about taste? Can he taste stuff?
So that's a little up in the air. I don't believe he has any personal taste in terms of preference, but I know that he can experience flavor because at one point, I want to say it's in Star Trek Generations, one of the movies, but he's trying to understand why people drink, and he takes a shot of whiskey or vodka or something, and he drinks it all and goes, "Oh, yes, this tastes bad. It is revolting," with a big old Data smile on his face. So I know he does understand. He can determine some factors of taste, but I don't know if he has any specific things that he dislikes per se. So
Now, where does it go?
it's probably just broken down and stored in his thing that he can, and poop out somehow, because we know that Data does have a butt. Unless it gets converted to energy, I'm not really sure. That's as far as my knowledge of this goes.
I think we need to find this out. I am more interested in this arc. Does Data poop?
The internet does not have an answer for what actually happens to the food in Data's stomach, so there is, as far as I know, no in-canon explanation. I just did a quick Google.
So who can we ask?
Probably Rick Berman.
Does he have a Twitter or an email?
Yes, he does. He does have a Twitter, but he didn't respond to our tweets last time we tweeted him.
Well, I figure we just keep trying.
Okay. I'll tweet him.
Because I really need to know this.
All right, I've just tweeted at Rick Berman. We will determine an answer. Probably never. But let's move on to the actual episode.
Okay, finally. I told you this was going to take the majority of it. We'll probably only talk 5 minutes of the rest of this episode. We'll see.
Yes. So basically what happens in this episode is some very, up till the last 10 minutes, low stakes, very little tension, investigative work to try to figure out where did this card from the future really come from. Like, obviously he comes from the future, but how did he get here? And it's real slow, because they just discover that, they're in some weird cloudy vortex and the Enterprise blows up, and Picard is trying to figure out, I'm the captain. I would never abandon my post. Why would I leave? And it's really slow to get to the conclusion of this, because as we've said, there's no B-plot. And we finally get to the conclusion, and Picard basically says, the whole episode he's saying, I would never leave my post. I shouldn't leave my post. Will never leave my post. It's bad for me to leave my post. And then this big vortex comes and starts shooting a laser at him, and Picard goes, I need to leave my post. I need to get off the ship immediately. To the point where it's almost embarrassing for Picard to not, like, he should, in my mind, Picard would have said, this must be why I would have left my post. I would have done this, and this is, like, you would have seen him think about it for a second. But instead, he immediately has this knee-jerk reaction of, I need to leave my post, despite knowing that was sort of a big issue that they've been trying to figure out this whole episode. I find that very, I don't want to say out of character, but very poor characterization, because it almost makes him look dumb.
Now, at one point, both Picards were dressed the same. I kind of got a little confused in who killed who. I'm assuming our Picard obviously killed the other one.
Future, yes. Our Picard killed future Picard.
I don't know how I got confused there, but I was like, who's trying to leave the ship and who's not? Because they were both kind of arguing, and then as soon as he shot him, okay, that's obviously our Picard. But man, I got so fucking confused.
The future Picard had a slightly deeper voice, which I thought was kind of stupid. I don't know why they didn't just rip his shirt a little bit.
Like, because he just escaped and shit.
He was in an explosion in a ship. Yeah, just be like, he's kind of, his shirt's kind of ripped, and that way we could visually say, oh, look, there it is. That's who. The reason why I really kind of want to hang up on this point of Picard wanted to get off the ship, our Picard wanted to get off the ship, is because when he eventually changes his mind and makes the decision to, no, don't get off the ship, we need to stop this guy from getting off the ship, up to the point where we need to kill him, I don't think we ever have a compelling reason for him to just suddenly change his mind, and I find it very confusing. I'm ultimately confused as to how our Picard came to the decision of, if we kill this version of Picard and fly directly into the mouth of this vortex, we'll be okay. I just can't...
Maybe I feel like he had to kill the Picard so he knew that, because if he or other left, maybe that would put the ship in the crisis. I know he just wanted to do the alternate idea of escape.
Yes, but I don't think it worked.
But also, why was his lightning attracted to Picard and Picard only.
They mentioned that briefly, which is the vortex. I think Deanna Troi said the vortex is a conscious being. She can sense a consciousness. And therefore, it sensed the vortex thought that Picard was the brain of the ship. And it was trying to contact the Enterprise, thinking Picard was its mouthpiece, basically.
And where did they even come up with that ludicrous idea?
I have no idea. We don't really know.
So
It's not explained. The fact that this vortex appears in the last 10 minutes, and then immediately there are no rules. We don't know what's going on, and so I was really.
It's like an older episode in season 1. Just bullshit happens at the end that you're waiting for, and nothing gets resolved, and it's not even interesting.
Yeah, there was no explanation, and I was like, I went back and rewatched it. I was like, how did Picard? Why did he change his mind? How did he come to this conclusion? I was baffled.
Yeah, I was so over it. I'm like, fuck, I'm just going to watch Vertigo.
Yeah. So, overall, this episode was kind of boring because there was no stakes until the very end. The investigation moved very slowly, and then the resolution all happened in the last 5 minutes, and it happened so quickly that I don't think it explained anything.
Yeah, it was, and then I thought the ending, like the exact ending, was very abrupt.
Oh, 100% it was. 100%. It didn't make any sense.
Very upsetting. We were on a good roll. I thought we were on a good roll. I'm not sure how you felt, but I liked the past few episodes I watched. This was shitty.
We were on a fine roll. We were on a fine roll indeed.
Well, season 2 is better than season 1.
It is. And so that's why I'm not dreading it like I am season 1. And because at least now you've seen that there is good Star Trek to be had.
Mm-hmm.
And so I don't feel a sense of urgency for you to get to it. Now it's just for my own sanity. I want to get to the Star Trek that I know and love. So that's the plan.
All right.
So join us next week when we discuss the Icarus Factor. And if you enjoyed this video, like, comment, subscribe. All that good stuff is much appreciated. And we will see you next time.
Bye-bye.
Our Favorite Frontier is hosted by Alex Russo and Nick Caladona, edited by Alex Russo, and produced by Nerdy Inc. Be sure to follow us on YouTube to catch all of our videos, as well as like us on Facebook, Twitter, and whatever other social media we have.